Hey YouTube, Ultra Magnum here, and as promised, here's my comparison video of X-Transbots Gravestone versus DX9 Capone. So in terms of height, X-Transbots is a smidge taller, but what really gives him more presence is he's beefier, just beefier looking around the chest and the shoulders versus DX9. In terms of materials, X-Transbots has die-cast pieces on the chest and on the thighs, whereas DX9 doesn't have die-cast. However, it's really solid plastic. It's proper sturdy grade stuff. Aesthetics wise, if you're looking for that toon coloration, I think X-Transbots probably has it versus DX9, although DX9 does have that toon look to it. There's been a lot of talk about the arm color for X-Transbots. It's not white, it's kind of like a grayish mucky white. X-Transbot doesn't bother because mainly due to where the arms come from. These come from the gray trailer, whereas these are hidden inside the cab on X-Transbots. Me personally, I prefer this look versus this one. Although this is more accurate to the cartoon, I think I just prefer the look of this. Following that kind of toon theme, I think in terms of the legs, X-Transbots does a better job in terms of coloration than DX9. So it's very consistent in terms of, you know, this is the toon kind of paint for the cab down here, and this doesn't look like a cab part, although it's got the color scheme of the cab, whereas DX9, just due to the transformation, so this is fantastic looking. However, you can clearly see that this is the cab from alt mode here, so probably just you know, edges to X-Transbots in terms of that. Sculpt wise, they're both really good, to be honest. I prefer DX9. I prefer the look. It just has a lot more kind of character to it. So in certain angles, it kind of gets this sneer that's just really great looking. X-Transbots, I've got the alt face on here because when I did the changeover, just the way that the eyes are pegged in at the back, I think they were loose actually already. They were So I've had to keep this one on because I can't work out how to get the eyes and the original face back on. It's a good sculpt, however, it doesn't have quite that same, I don't know, it's just not as dynamic as DX9. So I think, like, proportionality wise, for me, I prefer the DX9 to this kind of beefy look. However, if I sort of accept that there's no clear winner looks wise, they both look great. But that disappears as soon as you rotate these and start to look at them from different angles. So to my eye, the DX9 destroys the X-Transbots. It's so much cleaner in every respect. And it's not just the backpack, it's the top as well. So DX9 is almost like an action figure representation of Motormaster, whereas X-Transbots is an action figure that's had a cab of a truck jammed into the back of it, and it's hanging off the back and you can see it on the top. And you know, this matters, or it matters to me, because you know, if I'm looking at these on a shelf, I don't want to see all of this stuff. I want this, you know, kind of really clean. In terms of the bottom of the legs, XTB looks a lot cleaner than DX9. DX9, it's almost like the bot has stepped on the top of a big cab. You know, you can clearly see this is a big cab, whereas XTB, the cab is just limited to this section, and this is just leg. They both have kibbly bits. DX9 more so than XTB. Overall though, despite this, DX9 is much sturdier on his feet than XTB. this guy, he has a kind of tilt issue due to the weight and the way it's supported down on the rocker, whereas DX9 it is so solid throughout. Now onto construction. So these two are built very, very differently. X-Transbots, the thing that stood out for me the most, above everything else, is the creakiness. He has got, in every aspect, real kind of creaky, squeaky issues. It comes from a number of places. So first up is this section down here. It's just, I mean, it's plastic kind of rubbing on plastic to create friction, but there's nothing smooth about it. The overall cab up here, you've got a mixture of heavy die-cast stuff trying to tap into thinner plastic, and in particular these bits on the side, these are very squeaky, really, really squeaky. And although the ratchets are solid, they're not attached to anything that has an equal strength. So he has, so despite the beefiness and those, you know, the look of it, he's got a kind of a fragile, I wouldn't say arthritic kind of feel to him, and then, you know, and that runs throughout. When you're manipulating him, he just has a very, very noticeable squeak. DX9, in contrast, is a super well-oiled machine. There is nothing squeaky here. So there's a lot of friction kind of joints that, you know, it relies on friction to hold in place, but they do. There's nothing. It's so smooth. Everything about this figure is smooth. Even the ab crunch, you know, this is a proper ab crunch. They've filled this in here. XTB doesn't have that. It's basically just a hinge from Transformation that gives you that, the squeaky hinge. Everything about it really smooth, well oiled, and you want to kind of muck around with this and play with it and pose it. This, you kind of feel like, well, I mean, for example, this, you have to keep tabbing this back in because everything's paneled together, whereas on DX9 it's just so snug. Everything fits so snugly, and the plastic is so solid and chunky. It's just got no issues in that respect, and that all kind of flows into the posability. So DX9 is the fluidity of and the ease of moving him around. He's just so much more dynamic, so much more easy to pose, put into different kind of looks. He's just great, really great. XTB, so you have a little bit more on the arms here, you know, the kind of front hinge, but due to the weight distribution, there's a lot of die cast at the front, and the bit I discussed about the feet, you can't really do much with him in any kind of satisfying way, you know. So he's gonna look intimidating and menacing on the shelf, whereas DX9 can do that also, not quite to the same degree, but you can just do so much more. You can just flat out do so much more with DX9. So let's take a look at accessories. I'll just say it right off the bat. X-Transbots wins, hands down. X-Transbots, DX9. And you can see there's just a vast world of difference in paint, quality, sculpt. This feels like the gun of a collectible masterpiece figure. DX9 is more like the gun of a really high quality toy. There you go. So here we have truck mode, and this is where it gets really interesting, because for me, X-Transbots absolutely kills it as far as truck mode goes. So if we take each part in turn, in terms of cleanup, X-Transbots is smooth all round. There's kind of very little in the way of panel breaks, and much of that is because of the way that the cab is constructed. You know, big side panels. This ends up being the top of Motormaster. This stuff disappears. I mean, it's basically the backpack, but that's kind of followed all the way around. So the tankers on the side, the way the back cleans up. It is a really great truck mode, and it gets the benefits of the heft of this figure, the weight, the die cast, those things. Compare that to DX9. Lots of kind of breaks in the panels. You can see the hinges. If you look at the front, I mean, that's a world of difference. DX9, because of, again, you know, the way that it transforms, very different. You get all these breaks across alt mode. Down here on the side tankers, again, you know, this stuff, all of the paneling is very visible. All of the hinges. In terms of paint, the DX9 is a very smooth, almost kind of toy-like finish, which is ironic. It's almost like the rolls are kind of reversed, so you know, it goes for that full toon aesthetic, certainly from the front in bot mode. In truck mode, it goes to kind of toy. It's like a toy version. Contrast to the DX9, which is very much a toon kind of matte finish. It's not as glossy, not as shiny, but this looks better. It just looks better. That flows through into the detailing as well. So X-Transbots, you've got really nice thin application on the sort of pipe and chrome work. The grille looks fantastic. Headlight detailing, different colors for the side lights. X-Transbots is good, but you know, by no means is it kind of bad. But compared to the DX9, compared to the X-Transbots, sorry, just it's not quite in the same class. For the windows, X-Transbots is much more consistent. You've got the purple perspex for the main cab and the top part and the side, whereas X-Transbots, due to the way that these turn into the legs, these are matte paint, and so the side panels, it's not a massive issue for me, because I won't be displaying this guy in truck mode. But again, it's just another feature. This is more consistent. Just in fairness to point out that DX9 does have opening doors, whereas X-Transbots does not. But who needs those? Now the big elephant in the room is that these two are not like for like. DX9 has the big cab on the back, whereas X-Transbots is just the cab. So the reasoning for that, if obviously you've seen the videos, is because X-Transbots, this stuff, the cab goes into the legs and that's it. This becomes the upper body, whereas X-Transbots, this is the upper body and the legs go into kind of fake cab mode for the bot. To me, that's kind of, I know that they haven't cheated. They've done a design compromise for DX9, but it kind of flows. It flows with the G1 transformation. This goes into the feet, and then you get the grey trailer becoming the body, the upper body of Motormaster, whereas X-Transbots makes the compromise, and they've obviously done that because they're going to do stuff with the trailer for the combined mode, but that's where the X-Transbots loses out when it translates into bot mode for me. Final thoughts. So if we kind of break it down in terms of cab mode, XTB wins hands down. Flat out, looks better, better quality, better details, cleans up much nicer. Bot mode, DX9 for me, definitely. XTB has the leg kind of cleanup, and the tune finish is better without a doubt. However, DX9 has a much sturdier leg. It sits better, fits in with the rest of the figure, holds much nicer. The tune aesthetic, XTB I think nails it in terms of the color, and some of the detail, the sculpting behind the translucent pieces. The die-cast chest is really nice. Attention to detail with the coloration on the arms that DX9 doesn't have. Posability, DX9 knocks XTB out the park. So much easier, so much more fun, much more fluid, much more dynamic. This guy is a kind of bit of a creaky mess in that respect. Quality wise, DX9 totally, again, knocks XTB out of the park. Despite the fact that there is no diecast in DX9, it has a solid plastic throughout. It's better weighted, better distribution of weight, whereas XTB has the diecast, but the rest of it, it falls way short of supporting this kind of stuff at the front. So big downer in that respect. And that kind of flows through in terms of the transformation and the engineering. So DX9 is fun to transform, really great, dead easy, intuitive, but at the same time has that kind of quality masterpiece kind of moments. So really good. Longer, more involved. There's quite a few bits where there's thin bits of plastic that you have to kind of manipulate and move past each other, and it doesn't have that kind of quality kind of finish in the engineering that DX9 has. So for me, if all of these factors flow through into the combined Menasor mode, my instinct tells me that the DX9 is going to be much better. I mean, one thing, I haven't put it in the video, but with Capone, you get the Menasor body, so you know what it's going to be like. I'm going to do a review of Capone, and I'll show that off. The Menasor body is solid. It follows the dynamics of Capone, the Motormaster element, in terms of solidity and quality. The XTB is an unknown quantity at this stage. If some of those connections in the combined mode are of a similar type to this, then I think it's going to be kind of a bit floppy, or creaky at the very least. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe some of those issues are addressed. Okay, so that's been my comparison of two good figures, one really great one to my mind. Thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Leave comments down below, and like and subscribe to my channel, and look out for more videos in the coming weeks. Thanks for now. Bye.